Italian Constitution. Fundamental Principles. An Introduction. The Republican Constitution of 1948 is the most important source of law. It occupies a privileged place in the hierarchy of sources, placing itself above any other legal norm, from which rights and duties, obligations and legal prohibitions, attribution of powers and rules for their exercise derive. On June 2, 1946, Italians were called to vote by universal suffrage for the institutional referendum on monarchy or republic and for the election of the Constituent Assembly, which would have the task of drafting the Constitution. The Republic won. 556 deputies were elected. The text was approved on December 22, 1947, promulgated on December 27, and came into force on January 1, 1948. The Italian Constitution is the result of a long and complex constituent process and is structured into 139 articles, divided into 4 sections. Fundamental Principles. Rights and Duties of Citizens. Organization of the Republic. Transitional and Final Provisions. The 1948 Constitution represents a clear break with the monarchic and fascist past, establishing the principles of democracy, freedom, equality, and social justice. It was the product of a broad consensus among the main political forces of the time and reflected a compromise between different ideological visions, an expression of Catholic, liberal and Marxist thought. Despite the different political visions represented in the Constituent Assembly, the will to draft a text that did not belong to any political group prevailed. The fixed point and key to understanding was the anti-fascist inspiration. The Constitution opens with the title, Fundamental Principles, and the first 12 articles. Most constitutions in the world, about 90%, open with a preamble. Constitutional preambles usually contain an introductory statement that expresses the fundamental ideals, values and aspirations of the state and its people. In our case, it was preferred to insert the fundamental principles directly into the text of the Constitution, since they were considered an integral part of the Constitution itself, with the aim of avoiding any doubts about the breadth of their effectiveness and their immediate applicability in binding nature. The fundamental principles of the Italian Constitution are not simple declarations of intent, but represent real legal constraints that influence every aspect of the legal system and public policies. The value of the fundamental principles is in fact called preceptive, since these principles are norms in all respects, and as such susceptible to direct application even if, in the specific case, there is a lack of ordinary detailed discipline. In this way, the fundamental principles not only serve as guiding criteria to which public authorities must conform, but also act as rules that bind the interpreter. The fundamental principles represent the essential values and ideals on which the Republic is based. They contain the essential decisions on the type of state and the type of society desired by the Constitution. One of the most significant aspects of these articles is the balance between rights and duties. The Constitution not only recognizes and guarantees fundamental rights, but also calls on citizens and the state to respect duties of political, economic, and social solidarity. This balance is fundamental to promoting a just and supportive society, in which the dignity of the human person is at the center of the legal system. The Italian Constitution contains the founding principles on which the Republic is based, outlining its values and structure. Among these principles, some assume particular importance, acting as supporting pillars of the Italian legal system. Article 1 of the Constitution states that, Italy is a democratic republic, founded on work. The centrality of popular sovereignty and work reflects a conception of democracy that is not only formal, but substantial. This simple sentence encapsulates the cardinal principle of popular sovereignty, according to which power belongs to the people, who exercise it through their elected representatives. Democracy, understood as a form of government in which the people actively participate in political decisions, represents the method through which this sovereignty is exercised. Work plays a central role in the Italian Constitution. Article 4 is specifically dedicated to the protection of work, which is expressed in a series of rules that guarantee the right to fair pay, weekly rest, annual leave, health and safety protection in the workplace and the right to strike. This dualism between popular sovereignty and the centrality of work underlines the importance of active participation of citizens in public life and of a policy aimed at guaranteeing employment and the dignity of work. Article 2 emphasizes the inviolable rights of man, recognizing and guaranteeing them both individually and in social groups. These are universal rights, belonging to every person as such, which cannot be denied or limited even by sovereign power. This principle recognizes the centrality of the human person and the need to protect his fundamental rights, such as dignity, freedom and equality. Furthermore, the importance of the duties of solidarity is emphasized, which require a collective commitment for the well-being of the community. The Constitution dedicates an entire section, the first, to the rights and duties of citizens. Equality is one of the key principles of the Constitution provided for by Article 3, which prohibits any form of discrimination and requires the state to remove obstacles that limit the freedom and equality of citizens. This principle is closely linked to that of solidarity, which requires a collective commitment to the common good. The Italian Constitution promotes an inclusive vision of society, in which every individual has equal dignity and opportunities for development, and in which solidarity is an essential value. The Italian Constitution values pluralism, both political and cultural. The recognition of local autonomy and the protection of linguistic minorities are expressions of pluralism and respect for cultural and territorial diversity. The Italian Constitution promotes administrative decentralization and enhances local specificities, while ensuring national cohesion and unity. Article 6 provides specific protection for linguistic minorities, also in application of the principle of equality and the prohibition of discrimination provided for in Article 3. The protection of linguistic minorities is a sign of respect for cultural diversity and commitment to peaceful and harmonious coexistence. This principle recognizes the importance of cultural and linguistic diversity, committing to protect linguistic minorities present on Italian territory. The protection of linguistic minorities is essential to guarantee respect for human dignity and to promote harmonious coexistence between the various ethnic and cultural groups. The Italian Republic is secular and does not have an official state religion, that is, it does not profess any official religion and guarantees freedom of conscience and worship to all citizens. Secularism does not mean indifference to religions, but rather an attitude of impartiality and respect towards all faiths. The Constitution guarantees the freedom of all religious confessions and recognizes the sovereignty of the Catholic Church in its spheres, the Vatican State, promoting dialogue and cooperation based on mutual respect. This balance between secularism and recognition of religious traditions reflects the complexity and richness of Italian society. Article 9 provides for the development of culture, the protection of the historical and artistic heritage of the nation and environmental protection. The Italian Constitution recognizes the importance of culture and science as tools for intellectual and social growth, and is committed to protecting and enhancing cultural heritage as an element of identity and a resource for future generations. Since 2022, the protection of the environment, biodiversity and ecosystems has been explicitly provided for, also in the interest of future generations. This change represents an important step towards greater awareness and constitutional commitment to environmental sustainability and responsibility towards future generations. Openness to international law and commitment to peace are principles that reflect a cosmopolitan and pacifist vision of Italian politics. The Constitution conforms to international norms, guarantees rights to foreigners, promotes the right to asylum and repudiates war, encouraging international cooperation for peace and justice. Looking to the future, the role of fundamental principles continues to be crucial to the evolution of our constitutional system. These principles serve as a point of reference to address new challenges, such as emerging rights and new technologies. The principles of freedom, equality and human dignity will have to guide the interpretation and application of the Constitution in relation to new ethical and legal issues, such as those posed by artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and the protection of personal data. Economic and social crises. In situations of economic crisis, such as those we have recently experienced, the principle of solidarity and the right to work are called to play a central role in ensuring social cohesion and the protection of fundamental rights, also through inclusive public policies and adequate welfare measures. European and international integration. The internationalist principle, enshrined in Articles 10 and 11, will continue to guide Italy's participation within the European Union and international organizations, promoting peace, cooperation and respect for human rights on a global scale.